The silence of a factory at midnight isn't actually silent. It's a heavy, pulsating hum of cooling metal and settling concrete. My name is Elias, and for 6 months, I was the only soul patrolling the Blackwood Ironworks, a decaying relic of the 1920s. The air there always felt thick, like breathing through a damp cloth. My flashlight was my only friend, its beam cutting through a darkness so absolute it felt like it had weight. Every step I took on the rusted iron catwalks echoed twice. Once from my boot and a second time, a fraction of a second later, from somewhere deep in the shadows behind me. I told myself it was just an acoustic delay. I was wrong. On the night of August 14th, the temperature didn't just drop, it plummeted. At exactly 2:59 a.m., the industrial elevators, which hadn't had power in decades, suddenly groaned. The floor indicator lights flickered a sickly orange, rising slowly until they hit the 3rd floor. That floor was off limits. It was sealed behind a heavy, iron-plated red door. As I stood in the lobby, the elevator doors hissed open to an empty carriage, but the smell that drifted out was unmistakable. Burnt hair and ozone. Then, over my radio, which was turned off, I heard a wet, raspy breathing. A voice, sounding like grinding stones, whispered a single word. Open, drawn by a terrifying curiosity. I took the stairs to the 3rd floor. The red door was no longer locked. It stood ajar, revealing a hallway that seemed longer than the building itself. As I stepped inside, my flashlight beam hit the walls. They were covered, top to bottom, in thousands of black, soot-stained handprints. They weren't just painted. They were burned into the brick. Suddenly, the handprints began to move. They slid across the walls like shadows cast by a fire, converging toward my own shadow on the floor. I felt a sudden, agonizing heat on my back, as if someone was holding a hot iron inches away from my spine. I spun around, but there was no one there. Only the red door now slammed shut. The heat intensified. I looked down at my shadow and screamed. My shadow wasn't mine anymore. It was standing tall while I was crouching, and it was reaching for my throat. The handprints on the wall began to manifest into physical, charred limbs, clawing their way out of the masonry. Just as the first cold, ashen finger touched my neck, the factory's morning whistle, a timed automated test, blared through the building. The sound shattered the silence, and the world snapped back to normal. The door was locked. The walls were bare. I quit that morning. I didn't even go back for my final paycheck. I moved to a different city, thinking the distance would save me. But 3 nights ago, I woke up at exactly 3 a.m. The room was freezing. I turned on my bedside lamp, and there, on my white bedroom wall, was a single, fresh, soot-black handprint. It was small, roughly the size of a child's hand, and it was still warm to the touch. The Blackwood Ironworks didn't just want a guard. It wanted a host. And now, every time I blink, I see that red door standing open in the back of my mind, waiting for me to walk back in.